But not only like listening to it, but also having something to add to the conversation. So knowing that, I can always tell who's listened to and who hasn't. I would say to ask the host, like, knowing me or why we connected, like, which episode do you think I would like? The feedback that I've gotten from a couple of these critiques is for me to actually interject more. Sometimes only speak like 20%, and it needs to be closer to 40 on the host to like make the guest look as best as possible. But in order to do that, you have to share part of yourself.
If you want to be a good guest, you have to start off by being a bad guest. And Reena, thank you so much for coming back.
Yes, third time guest, right?
Three-peat, all about three-peats. I don't know that I have any four-peats, but I brought you here because you've got like a gazillion different podcast episodes, Better Call Daddy. More specifically, I think you're what, 400 something?
Yeah, close to 450.
Okay, close to 450. You may know a thing about interviewing guests. And I want to ask you what you think makes the ideal podcast guest for someone in 2026 that wants to explore podcast guesting as a strategy.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think one thing that makes a great guest is listening to the podcast before you go on it.
Guilty of not doing that.
It honestly, I feel like compliments the host so much.
Yes.
If you know who they're interviewing and what they're talking about, and you can help connect some of those dots. Like I know that you recently interviewed Chung, and Chung came from Integrity Bank, and both of those episodes have recently aired close to each other.
Yeah, well, and the first time I got called out for not listening was the last time. And this was before Speak Podcasting was even Speak Podcasting, and I was promoting one of my books. And so, yes, you're right. There are a lot of dots to connect, and it also seems to me, because I don't pretend to know everything about all this stuff, it at least to me, as a guest, you're not caught off guard. So if I'm going to be a guest on Better Call Daddy, which I was a guest on Better Call Daddy, but if you and I didn't know each other, if we were not friends, and I got a cold invite to be on your show, I'm like, yeah, I'll do it. But then I show up at the interview, not knowing anything about you. Well, I'm leaving myself susceptible to a lightning round of questions that might go awry if I'm not prepared. If I don't have 45 minutes to an hour to spend with you, and I think that it's only going to be 20 or 30 minutes, then I'm going to be at least a half an hour late to my next appointment if I'm back-to-back booked. If I don't even know what you look like, if I don't know what format the show is, like if I see Better Call Daddy and I think it's a parenting podcast, but I'm talking about something, there are a lot of things that, back to your original point, a lot of dots get connected by simply listening to at least one or two episodes.
Yeah, so you might show up with like your parenting tips instead of your podcasting tips, although they both kind of apply.
Sure. Yeah.
But not only like listening to it, but also having something to add to the conversation. And another thing that makes a great guest is like knowing that they may have covered a topic and you have knowledge about that topic, or they may have not covered a topic, but it's similar to the theme of their show. Like I interview daddy's girls and inspirational dads and, you know, anybody with a good daddy story, and you yourself are a dad. So it's like coming with a good daddy story, or, you know, having a question for my dad, because at the end of most episodes, my dad reflects on the episode, but a lot of times if guests have listened, they know that they can have a question for my dad to answer. So knowing that, I can always tell who's listened to and who hasn't, because if you haven't, they're just like, oh, you know, how did your dad make such a nice daughter like you? And it's a nice compliment, but it's like thinking quick on your feet. But the guests that come with a thoughtful question, I love that. So that makes you like a 10-star guest.
10-star guest is to really do the homework. What are your thoughts on, okay, well, I don't have time to join the XYZ or I don't have time to listen to a whole series of XYZ podcast episodes, but what if I just frolic between 10, 20 minutes here and there for like, I don't know, 3 or 4 episodes, as opposed to listening to 3 or 4 entire 1-hour episodes?
So I would say to ask the host, like, knowing me or why we connected, like, which episode do you think I would like, or what's one that you've done recently that stood out? Or do you want to learn something? Do you want to be entertained? So a lot of times for me, I send the Jerry Springer episode because my career started there and people remember that about me. And I was fortunate enough to get to interview him. So I'm like, episode 210, start there. If you want to know about podcasting, I had a conversation with another podcaster, Vibes by Alicia, and she talked about, podcasting as a business, and I talked about podcasting as a business, and we're both mompreneurs doing that. And we compared notes of how we would start a podcast and what we think about in the first 50 episodes. So a lot of times people reach out to me and they're like, how do I do this? How do I start a podcast? And I'm like, you know what? Start with this episode. And we kind of talk about, we're both podcasters. We talk about our start. We compare notes. And we talk about what you should think about in the first 50. So I have that kind of by memory is a good one. And then also, I always believe like you're as good as your most recent episode.
Oh my goodness, yes. Yes.
So if you want to start somewhere and you want to know what someone's up to, see what they've most recently released. So that would kind of be how I would send episodes to someone. Where you started in your career, like kind of a career high that you've had. I have such a big amount of people reach out and like they want to do it themselves. I've got to do it yourself. Here's how you can do it yourself episode.
Yeah.
And then if you want to know what I'm up to lately, listen to the latest.
Right. So let's go back to Jerry Springer. Everyone who listens to this show knows by now that you were a producer for Jerry Springer, also Nanny 911.
Yep.
What was he like? What did he bring to the table as a guest that if you could implant it into all your future guests, that you would?
It's interesting that you just asked me that. So I introduced you to this guy, Neal Sullivan.
Yes.
And he did a Pod Critic review of that episode.
Oh.
So I can actually tell you a little bit about that.
We're going to dive deep. Okay.
Yeah. So, when you land a celebrity, you're just like so excited to have them where you, like, for me, I didn't necessarily feel comfortable like interrupting or interjecting or adding my 2 cents. And Jerry's like a very political guy. Like he's into politics. Like his career started as a politician.
He founded Air America, right?
He was the mayor of Cincinnati. And he was like city council, and he had a podcast where he talked about politics for years. And honestly, when I was on the show, I thought he might even leave Springer to go back to politics. Like there were rumors of that. He was an Emmy-winning newscaster. He worked at the same station as Donahue. So his roots were
that,
like as an anchor, as someone who was polished in front of the camera.
He could have easily been Bill O'Reilly.
Exactly. So when I had him on and he went on to this like little political rant, I did not interrupt that. I kind of let him go loose. And the Pod Critic critique of that episode was like, it would have been good of me as a host to synthesize that or maybe interject or add something to that piece because it got a little long. And the parts where people didn't drop off were our time that we spent together, our favorite stories, what we remembered, Jamaica. Like that was the part where I was the most into it and also where people were the most engaged with it. So Jerry as a guest needs to be reeled in a little. And that was actually, I felt like, interesting feedback. And also I could have been more structured with it. Like I could have started like how we connected, what his interests were, and then what his legacy was, and then wrapped it up with a little bow. I could have been more structured, but I think since I was just so excited to have him and like get that validation and get that catch up and get that closure, I didn't structure it as much as I usually do.
In your defense, I will say that it just happens when you're super excited about having a guest. And it can be somebody that's super famous like a Jerry Springer. I would most likely, definitely, 1000% be like that if it was my favorite author, Chuck Palahniuk. I have 1,000 questions right now that I can think of that I would ask him.
Tell me some. That's cool. And that would probably throw you off a little.
I would definitely ask him about Guts, which is the short story, and there's an audio version on YouTube. I dare you to look it up. That literally makes people vomit when they hear it. Like, he would do live readings, and it would make people sick. So anyways, I would probably ask him a series of questions about that. And I would ask him about Fight Club and the story about his dad and the story about the story when he was broken down after his dad passed away. And I would ask him about how the books were getting sent to get pulped. And, you know, he is dozens of books later, one of the best authors of our generation. And I would want to deep dive into the feeling that he had when the books went to go get pulped. But back to what you're talking to you, it's like, I'm coming up with all these questions and all these things that I would love to talk with Chuck Palahniuk about. But if Reena, if you walked in, hey, Freddie, I brought somebody and he's right here, he's going to sit right here, and I would freeze.
I was nervous. But nervous in a good way. And I also think like your podcast or my podcast like is a mix of people that want to come on and who I want to come on.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to kind of get nervous and like kind of reach out to the Chuck Palahniuks. Is that how you say it?
Chuck Palahniuk, yeah.
I think it's like, have you ever tried to reach out to him?
I came close. The closest I've ever gotten to him. You see how she turns the interviewer? She's like the... You must not be like being the guest because you're like interviewing me now. But
I think it's good to have a back and forth
no,
too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Because your audience wants to know about you too. And the feedback that I've gotten from a couple of these critiques is for me to actually interject more. Because I, as an interviewer, sometimes only speak like 20%. And it needs to be closer to 40.
I see that. Yeah, I see that. Yeah. And
so even though we're talking about guesting, the host, it is on the host to like make the guest look as best as possible. But in order to do that, you have to share part of yourself in order to bring things out of the other person.
Now this is a coaching session. You're so awesome. Yeah, this is why I love having her on. Yeah. But to answer your question, one of the very first podcasts that I'd ever done, and it was back when I was on the radio, I interviewed a guy named Tyler Jones. And it was the podcast, I think it was called This Is Horror. And it was back when I was doing a lot of writing and, you know, by default, a lot of reading as well. When you're not writing, they say you should be reading. Okay, so that's to kind of keep your skills sharpened, right?
Yeah.
So I heard of this author, Tyler, on this podcast and really enjoyed hearing him speak. And I just reached out to him. I'm like, hey, Tyler, this is going to, whatever the pitch was, probably like going to be a long shot, but I would love to have you on the podcast. I have a new show about books, and I work for this top 40 radio station. And so this is just a part of what I'm doing, yada, yada, yada. He's like, cool. And I didn't really think anything of it because I just wanted to talk to Tyler about his book. Okay. And now I'm forgetting the name of the book, but it was a really good one. And so we talked. Come to find out, I was Tyler's first podcast interview. He did amazing. But also, one of Tyler's, I guess, I don't know if he was like a writing group. Some authors have their writing groups, and they have
Yeah.
like, not like an instructor, but like the leader of the writing workshop or whatever. It was Chuck.
No.
Yeah.
You're so close.
I was very close. And then I don't even remember. This is years ago, Reena. So I'm probably misremembering a lot of pieces to this. Long story short, Chuck listened to the interview and enjoyed it. And I'm like, I am inside my favorite author's head. And
you should have reached out then.
But the thing was, I didn't want it to be like transactional, like, hey, Tyler, I got you on my show, so now I'm going to ask you if I can interview Chuck. Like, it was never really about that, because I genuinely really enjoyed speaking with Tyler. I interviewed him, I think, twice. Once when I was at the radio station, the second time for my other old podcast. And he's a great writer, indie writer, and I just had a lot of fun talking with him. And
okay, well, maybe he should be a third-time guest, and then you can ask him what's up with Chuck. That you remembered that piece of him listening. Just like a casual, like, what's he up to?
Yeah.
Are you still a part of that group? What's he doing now?
Yeah.
Have you ever found an interview of Chuck?
There are a lot of podcast interviews with Chuck. Joe Rogan did one of the best interviews with him.
Oh, wow.
It was a long one. It was like from years ago. And some of the stories are crazy.
That's cool.
And we're talking about ideal guests.
Yeah.
Chuck is like an ideal guest. Like, he is everything you would want in a guest. He is storied, obviously, because he's one of the most prolific authors of our time, one of the greatest writers ever. And he's lived a life, and he is unashamed and unabashed. He will talk about all the, we've both talked to Evan Carmichael, and Evan Carmichael talks about showing the warts, right? This is a guy who has no problems showing the warts.
I love people like that, and you've done some of that too.
Yeah.
But the thing is if other people do it with you, then you feel more comfortable doing it with them.
Yeah, because we all start to realize that we're all just humans. We're all just trying to do the best we can with what we have at that time.
Yeah.
And then there are people that are listening that are like, oh, wow, this Freddie guy really doesn't have his shit figured out.
Well, what I was thinking is we've now just talked about him multiple times in this episode. You literally have like 2 or 3 clips you could send him or tag him in.
I should
and just
probably just ask.
Yeah. Or you could tag him in a clip and then ask.
Although I probably have tweeted once or twice that if I were to ever interview Chuck Palahniuk and or Sad Guru, I would just quit podcasting, because that's how important they are to me. Like that's how ideal of guests they would be. I
felt that way about Jerry. I was kind of like, how am I going to follow that up?
Like, there's no one left.
But the thing is that honestly, every conversation that you have, you get better and better, and you're just continuing to hone those skills. And that's why I even came today. I was like, ooh, he wants to do another one with me. Like, this is what I love doing. I could do this every single day.
Yeah.
And so that's what you should do if you want to get better at it. What makes a good guest? Somebody who wants to get better at it.
Right.
Somebody who is working to get better at it.
Yeah. Which leads me to my next topic. So you got to do more guesting, and you got to appear on more podcasts. If you want to be a good guest, you have to start off by being a bad guest. Unfortunately, you got to learn, all the things. You got to say the ums and the ahs, and oh gosh, I messed that part up. Reena, can we stop? No, we actually are not going to stop. We're going to keep going, just like it's live TV. So you unfortunately have to be a bad, or maybe softer put, an imperfect guest.
Yes.
And then you start to hone your skills. And so all that to say, being a podcast guest is not nearly as easy as hosting a podcast, because you can host a podcast however often as you want. If you're going to be guesting on a podcast, well,
you might get less invitations.
Yeah. You might get on Reena's show. Are you going to get on Freddie's show? Are you going to get on Freddie's show? You're not going to get on Reena's. Are you going to get on Dr. Sturm's? Are you going to get on the Roses pod? So, I mean,
I think too, like, I love what you're doing lately of collaborations between your clients. Not only did you introduce them at SpeakFest, but now people who hit it off at SpeakFest, like you're matchmaking them. And I think that also deepens your relationship with your clients and gives them experience on the flip side of being on the other side of the mic, which, like you're saying, guesting can sometimes not be as easy if they're spending all their time being a host. So you're also giving benefits to your clients by making them practice the other side.
And so what I like to get your thoughts on are pitches. Now, I'm sure you've seen by now, because I know I have, and I know if I have, you've surely seen the garbage pitches that have nothing to do with your show, Better Call Daddy.
Yeah, so sometimes I don't respond because there's so many that are just like completely unrelated. And then sometimes after they've written me 3 times, if they write me 2 or 3 times and I haven't responded at all, and it's just like a different variation of not good, then I'll just maybe say like, thank you so much for reaching out 3 times, or I've seen a couple emails from you and I really appreciate that. And, tell me more about their relationship with their father, or what they want their legacy to be, or how it ties into Better Call Daddy. And see if they write back something interesting, or if that gets rid of them, or, if it might be worth a pre-chat to see if there's something there.
Yeah. What about pre-chats? You obviously like them. You have them.
I can't have them with everyone because not everybody will even give you the time to do it. But I have noticed that guests feel more comfortable. And if they don't have time to listen to 2 to 3 episodes of your show and don't want to know the format, a pre-chat can really kind of give you an idea of where to go in a conversation, or whether you want to have a conversation at all.
So would you rather have the pre-chat would you rather have the pre-chat, or would you rather have someone listen to 2 or 3 episodes before? Like what works for you as a guest?
That's a great question. I will say that if somebody listens to, I had somebody send me recently that they had listened to close to 700 minutes of my podcast this past year, that they were one of my top 2% listeners.
Hold on one second. 700 divided by 60 is, whoops.
Well, not all of my episodes are 60, but around there, yeah.
100, let's just say divided by 45 minutes.
Yeah.
That's 15.55 hours that they've spent with you.
Somebody sent me that with the Spotify Wrapped thing. And let me tell you, I've not had a pre-chat with them, but that made me want to have a pre-chat and consider them for my show because they know me from that.
They really know you. Yeah. Wow.
So I even tell people, I'm like, if you want to get a podcaster's attention, like Roseanne Barr has shared me in her story multiple times because I've spent over 15 hours with her by listening to her podcast and sharing it and quoting it and interacting with the comments. She knows that. Podcasters take note of that. Not everyone does that in a meaningful way.
That is a really... Okay, so now this is just me spitballing here. Are you more likely to listen to a pitch like that where they're like, hey, Reena, I've listened to 700 minutes. You're on my Spotify Wrapped. But what if it's a terrible guest idea? Like if it's genuinely something that, let's just pretend for 1 second.
I try to dig deeper if it's nothing I'm interested in. But usually I'm a curious person. Like even if I know nothing about what they want to talk to me about, I might say, tell me more.
So you're more likely to say yes, even if it's a topic you're not necessarily interested in, just because they put that much time into you.
For sure.
It made that much of a difference.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, I don't really care too much for basket weaving, but since Janie said she listened to 15 hours of my show, I've got to pay it back.
Well, not only I've got to pay it back, but if they feel that connected to me and they like how I host and the topics that I'm covering, I want to know why.
Oh.
Like, what kept you listening?
Yeah.
Like, what do you love about me? What made you feel drawn to listen? Like that, you're going to get the best feedback from someone who has spent that kind of time invested in you. it's really hard to get feedback. So when someone lets you know that they're digging you and they're vibing with you and they find your content valuable, that's somebody that you want to keep.
That is interesting.
I have people like comment on stories that I share.
Yeah.
And I will screenshot that and then @ them, mention them, and share it in my story. I do that often because I'm like, wow, that person took the time to DM me about something that I posted. They resonated with it. Sometimes I'll ask for permission if it's like a paragraph. But if somebody wrote like a thoughtful comment about something that I posted and they do it frequently, I want to shout them out so that other people will see that I do that and they'll interact with me too.
You know what that reminds me of? That reminds me of Gary Vaynerchuk, and he says this every now and then, is that when he first started, that he was answering every single tweet. Thousands and thousands of tweets.
Yep.
That he was replying to every single comment.
That'll keep your post going.
Every single one.
That will keep your post going. Like, don't you get excited if a Gary V hearted even that you commented?
Oh, yeah. I remember, I think it was some random comedian that I just replied to their tweet because I thought it was funny, and he hearted my tweet, and I'm like, oh, wow, they saw me.
See?
Yeah.
And who even knows if it's his team?
Yeah. It might not have even been the guy, right? Yeah.
Right? Like, I've managed other people's accounts where I respond to every single one of them for them.
Yeah.
Because that will keep your post alive and that will make people feel seen. Yeah.
So in 2026, what is something that you would like to see podcast guests for your show and just in general? What do you see as being something that we should all just not do anymore?
Oh, I thought you were asking me kind of like for 2026, you know, did I have any ideas around like guests that I want to kind of steer towards?
Or we can do that too. What kind of guests do you want to steer toward in 2026?
Instead of like, what do I not want to see? What's interesting is like more than one person has said to me that I should interview more Jerry Springer type of guests, that there really isn't that. And I do tend to get people sharing Jerry Springer stories with me when they find out that I worked there. They feel comfortable like telling me like, oh, I have a Jerry Springer story for you.
Like, so what do you mean? Like they were connected to Jerry Springer, or they have a show, a topic that would have been on that show?
They have a topic that would have been on that show. So here's an example of that. Like I recently was in Oklahoma for a shoot and, you know, I was very excited about the work that I was doing there and I shared it with my Uber driver and he was like, oh, I've got a Jerry Springer story for you. He's like, I have 4 daughters and they're all the same age, but only 2 of them, you know, were with my wife. So yeah, he had 3 pregnant women at the same time.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. And he talked about being a single dad and learning how to change diapers and, you know, being a dad to a daughter and some of the things they wanted to talk to him since the wife wasn't around sometimes. And I found that to be really interesting. And then, you know, what was his dad like? And what does he remember about from when I stepped into the Uber? And then too, like, has he tried to refer people to Uber? What are the craziest stories he hears as an Uber driver? How did he become an Uber driver? Yeah. So that was kind of crazy. Or I also mentioned another one to you where somebody found out that I worked at Springer and she was like, I learned English watching Springer. I was trafficked here and kept in a room and I didn't know that America had those types of stories. I thought this was the land of, you know, gold in the streets.
Wow, what a world.
So I think I want to like intermix like serious stories and scandalous stories.
The ones that people might be otherwise ashamed to talk about.
Yeah, I do feel like I kind of have an act for those kind of stories of like getting people to open up. And I love those stories.
And get it off their chest.
Yeah. There's so many people that honestly just need someone to talk to them. And I'm totally good, like, not a therapist, not a social worker, but I'll be an ear.
Yeah. And sometimes that's all people need.
Yeah.
Or want.
And then I'll have my dad weigh in and you know, he'll be a second opinion.
Yeah. Reena, you're a real one.
Thank you. So are you, Freddie.
I appreciate you so much. Thank you for being on.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me.
All right. BetterCallDaddy.com. Please check out Reena on her website and listen to, you said close to or more than 450 episodes?
It's a few more than that now.
It's over 450 episodes. You're going to love Better Call Daddy. And all right. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening.